This is We the Sales Engineers Podcast, show 45.
Welcome to We the SEs podcast, the show for sales engineers by sales engineers with your host, Ramsey Marjaba. Ramsey named his oldest son after a character from his favorite TV show.
Hello, SE Nation. Good morning and welcome to the show. My name is Ramsey Marjaba. I want to thank you for being here. And before we get too deep into this episode, I do want to thank everybody who's reaching out to me, whether it's through LinkedIn, Twitter, or the contact page on my website, and tell me that I've actually, in some little way, helped them with their career. A gentleman recently reached out to me and said that through listening to my podcast, he's actually been able to get a job as a sales engineer. I am not going to name names or actually quote the person. I just wanted to share this because that sort of information that I've been receiving actually drives me to keep going forward. And I want to help as many people as I can. So thank you for sending these messages to me. Sales engineering has been the best job I've ever had. And it's profoundly changed my life. And if I can help someone get into sales engineering, I know that I'll be changing, or at least helping change their lives in a profound way, which means the world to me, that just knowing that I helped someone. All right. About this show. So this is a solo show. I've had 7 interviews in a row. I think it's about time that I just come out here and speak out. And show notes for this episode will be at wetheSalesEngineers.com/show45. And the reason I'm doing this is, hey, I just helped a person get a job as a sales engineer. And since they're new to sales engineering, and I know other SEs who are new to the role are listening, I want to share some of the mistakes that I've made throughout my career, some of which were as a brand new SE, some of which I'm still learning from today. And there were so many mistakes that it was hard for me to limit them to 10, but I figured I'll just keep a list for for part 2 of mistakes. So for now, here are the 10 mistakes that I've done as a brand new SE or somewhat experienced SE. So number 1, using the spray and pray method, otherwise known as show up and throw up. And what it basically means is that we come in with a slide deck, a corporate slide deck that's not tailored to the customer, and just start going through it and see what the customer resonates with. And basically no discovery is done. Nothing could be useful to the customer in the slide deck. I've had the situation where we had the slide deck, we had 5 meetings in 1 or 2 days in a row because we had some VPs in town. We wanted to parade them around. And we went to different customers, and some of the customers liked it because we had talked to them ahead of time. It's like, hey, we're doing a slide deck about this specific topic. Would you be interested? They said yes. And it seems some misunderstood, and we showed up and we did the slide deck and nothing stuck. So we sprayed and we prayed, nothing stuck. We went home empty-handed. We just wasted a few hours of our lives doing that. We wasted hours of our VP's lives coming all the way from San Jose to Canada for no good reason whatsoever. So, all right, I'm doing the list of 10 mistakes, but I also want to provide what could be done instead of that mistake and what I've learned. And what I've learned by doing this mistake is, well, 1, don't do a spray and pray method. But 2, instead of doing that, take the time to actually do a proper discovery. And discovery is harder than spray and pray, because you spray and pray, it's a slide deck. You just go through the slide deck and the customer nods, you take a note, and they say, oh, I want a quote about this. And it's depending on the complexity of the product, it could be as easy as that, or it could lead to other meetings with other spray and pray slide decks. But in general, do a proper discovery. Hopefully the account manager did some basic qualifications to understand what the customer is looking for initially, and which will then prepare you to actually look into whatever products, especially if you're a generalist SE like myself. Even specialist SEs, sometimes their specialty is large. Like if we're talking LTE could be a bunch of different things. So that way it'll give you time to actually look into whatever you want to look into. So do a proper discovery. And then if you want to do a slide deck, have the slide deck targeted towards whatever discovery you made. And generally, I haven't had to do that. Since I stopped doing the spray and pray method, I've rarely used PowerPoint slides. I've used whiteboards. I've used discussions, like just sitting there and talking to people. And I quickly skipped to like a demo, which I didn't perform the same day as a discovery. I scheduled a week after or whatever amount of days after to do the discovery, after doing the discovery. So that's mistake number one. In case you missed it, mistake number one is doing the spray and pray method. Mistake number two is giving training instead of doing a demonstration. I want to point out that these are two different things. When I first started being a sales engineer, I would show up and I would go through the entire way to configure something on our software, versus having everything configured and ready and actually showing the results, which is the most important part for our customers. Giving training can come after, but when you're trying to sell, you're trying to show value. And the value isn't shown by configuring stuff. The value is shown by showing the results and how this could increase their performance or whatever it is that your product does for the customer. The reason giving training isn't the best because giving training is directed towards the people who are actually going to use it on a day-to-day basis. Whereas the demonstration, you're also demoing to folks that may not use it, that just care about the result. So you have to know your audience for obvious reasons. But also those who are doing it on a day-to-day basis may not actually use the product the way you were showing them. For example, you could be setting up something for the customer one time and they will never use it again. They will just look at the reports. So why would you want to show them how you set it up? If they need training later, we can do training. We can show you how to do it. But for today, this is what you will get. This is the value, the business value you will get out of using our product. All right, so mistake number one is spray and pray. Mistake number two is giving training versus performing a demonstration. Mistake number three is accepting a mediocre discovery. And what I mean by that is not probing deep enough to actually understand what they want. And that's something that happened to me often, where I go meet a customer and they say, oh, we just want to learn about this technology, if you support this technology or how you test this technology. And then I show up with a demo, and then I start getting asked all these nitty-gritty questions telling me about, can you do this? Can you do that? Whereas these are the things I should have asked beforehand. Now, to be specific, I'm in a scenario where I sell test equipment for companies like Cisco and Nokia and Ciena. So, and one of our customers, Cisco, actually writes the standards for new technologies. So if you've ever heard of something called EVPN or segment routing, they are not the only ones. Like, there are other people out there who write the standards, but they participate in writing the standards. So generally speaking, they know the technology better than I do, because we take what they wrote our company takes what they wrote and tries to implement it in form of a test equipment. So when I go to actually do a discovery, I need to understand exactly what they're looking for, what they're looking to test. And in their mind, everybody knows the technology. Oh, we just want EVPN. But EVPN has a million different variables. And this may not be applicable to everybody, but it's applicable to a few people. I just talked to someone who's in the same boat. So we have to do proper discovery. And I've noticed that I have not been able to do a proper discovery when it comes to this because there are many different variables that change and customers want different things. So if you can't do a proper discovery or a fully fledged discovery where they give you all the information, and I believe that's kind of impossible to have in any industry. So the tip that I have, what I've been doing is, let's say I did the discovery on a Monday. I schedule the demo for the Wednesday, the week after, and then on the Friday, I connect with one of the main engineers at my customer site who I've built a good relationship with, and show him what I plan to show the rest of the team, and get feedback like that. That way, he will provide me with information. So my discovery is kind of a discovery and then showing one person what I plan to show the rest of the team, who then can give me feedback so I can modify my demo to fit the larger team. And that has saved me so much grief because a lot of the questions that the team will ask, this gentleman would ask, or at least he'll ask some of the questions, which will make me think about more and anticipate more questions and fix the demo to fit their needs versus coming in and get blindsided by all the questions that I didn't even consider because of the in-depth needs of that team. Mistake number 4 was not practicing for discovery meetings or demos or proof of concepts. What I've seen in the professional world, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, is we don't practice enough for events we're about to do. And I've given this analogy a lot of times. Athletes. So they don't, let's say basketball players, because basketball is my sport. Let's say athletes, basketball players, they don't wait till they get drafted in the NBA to start practicing basketball. They don't wait till they have the game to grab the ball for the first time and start playing. They practice from when they were kids, mostly, all the way till they're professionals. And then they practice in between games. They practice before the season starts and throughout the season. Whereas for some reason, professionals, SEs and salespeople, whoever, we don't practice anything. We just do. We show up to a game, we grab the ball and take the shot. We didn't warm up, nothing. The question is, how are we expected to perform at a peak level if we don't practice to be at a peak level? Another sport I enjoy is powerlifting. I don't powerlift, I just enjoy watching people lift tremendous amounts of weight. They don't just show up and get under the bar and squat 800 pounds. They practiced for it. They've been squatting since they were teenagers or early 20s, whatever it is. They practice for it. We don't, at least from what I've seen, if you know people who practice more often, and I'm not talking about like training, like John Kerr provides trainings. There's a bunch of people who provide training. And it's not the training that's the important part. It is important, but it's then practicing what you trained for before you have a demo or a discovery or a POC. That's the important part. And why we don't practice is beyond me. luckily in my new job, we do something like every month where we get together and do a role-playing session, but that kind of takes place in between this meeting and that meeting. It's not focused. It's better than where I was before, where we did role-playing once a quarter whenever we met for like whenever the entire team met. But we need to do more training. We need to do more scenarios. We can't prepare for a scenario that we can't even conceive. But in a sales engineering team, there's usually like minimum 3 up to 10, 20 SEs possibly. Each one of these SEs has seen a different scenario that stumped them. But after they got stumped, if they share that with the rest of the team through a role play, that could prepare the team for that scenario going in the future. That's not even a correct sentence, but you know what I mean. So I would recommend, and this is something I'm going to try to do with my team in my current position, and the team has already discussed it, and everybody's up for it, it seems, is to do a bi-weekly meeting where we practice, either practice a demo, practice a discovery call, talk about different products, what problems they solve. We just need to practice and share information. So that's it for mistake number 4, which was not practicing discovery meetings or demos or POCs. Mistake number 5 was allowing the customer to walk all over me. And if you guys have seen me before, most likely you haven't, but I'm 6'2", 280 pounds. So there's a lot of space to walk over, and I let them walk over me. In most cases, I'm an intimidating guy, just because of the way I look. I'm very furry and fluffy on the inside, mean looking on the outside. But yet, when it comes to customers expect that they, or at least some of my customers have been trained by other SEs that they can walk all over us. And when I first started being a new SE, I thought that was the way to go. The customer is always right. But the customer is not always right, because you know more about your product than they do. You know how you can help them solve their problems. You're their advisor, not the doormat. So if they're asking for the moon, it's our job to point them in the direction of like being realistic and actually, but being able to solve their problem as well. So don't just say, no, we cannot do that. That's impossible. Try to understand what problem they're trying to solve. Okay, but that's a bonus mistake. It was either, yes, we can solve it, no, we cannot solve it. There was no, why do you want that? Which is part of allowing the customer to walk all over me. So, yes, we can do it. It was, yes, we can do it all the time. And then we'd spend weeks trying to do it. And for some reason that I cannot fathom, the customer was okay with us being in their lab, just wasting away, doing their stuff. Well, they were okay with it because they were doing something else. They weren't with us. They had no skin in the game. You want to try it? Go ahead, try it. I don't care. I'm going to be doing my job. But I want you to keep doing this, even if you can't do it. So it's part of our job as sales engineers to set expectations. And that also comes with being able to communicate with account managers to let them know that we cannot do what the customer wants, or to try to gather more information to see what the customer actually needs and then offer a solution there versus doing what they want, which may be impossible or not logical. All right, so to repeat the first 5 mistakes, since we're halfway through. 1, using the spray and pray method. 2, giving training instead of performing a demo. 3, accepting mediocre discoveries. Number 4, not practicing for any of our meetings. And number 5, allowing the customer to walk all over me specifically. And another note about that, I've noticed that a lot of SEs do that. At least the ones who haven't developed the skills to actually understand what the customer needs versus what they're asking for. So moving on, mistake number 6 was spending time with the customer on a proof of concept without any agreed upon outcomes or test cases or results that they're looking for. So again, I've already used the term EVPN before. If you don't know what EVPN is, you don't really need to know. Just know it's a networking technology that has many different variables and many different options. So we go in and do the POC, and during the discovery, the customer said, "Oh, we just want to see if EVPN works with our stuff," and not doing a good discovery. We're just doing a mediocre discovery. It's like, yeah, sure, obviously EVPN will work. But we didn't go into the details of what exactly do you support, what we support, or any of that, or what tests do you want to run. Like, yeah, we can get EVPN up and running. Can we do the millions of sessions that you want, or sending actual Ethernet traffic over the EVPN link? We either didn't do that, or we didn't agree that these are the test cases that the customer wants to actually perform. So it's an open-ended POC with no skin in the game from the customer, and or no commitment to purchasing if we actually do what we promised that we could do. And we start off great. We show up, we bring our equipment, we connect to their equipment, everything's running, everything's doing well. Yay, we're going to sell. Well, not so fast. Because now comes the customer. Can we try this? Sure. We run into a snag here or there, or maybe it goes perfectly. And then we're done. Can we try this? Again. So now it's something different that the customer wants to try. We never agreed upon it, but he never committed to us that these are the test cases that I want to see. If that works, we buy. No, we didn't have any of that. We just showed up and started working. And that I would love to blame the account manager that he didn't agree, or he didn't ask the customer what test cases he wants to run. But frankly, it's the SE's job to agree with the customer over what tests they want to run, because the account manager doesn't know anything about that. Some account managers do. Most account managers do not. He or she do not understand the technology as well as the SEs. And if the SEs are having trouble with mediocre discovery, how much trouble would the account manager be running into? So it's on the SE to first off sell the account manager the fact that they need to agree on a list of tests that they're going to run with the customer, and then sell the customer on that list of tests. And if the customer doesn't agree to the list of tests, they need to agree to a subset, or maybe add to the list, as long as it's a finite list that the SE knows and the customer knows and the account manager knows what they're doing. If they check mark all these test cases, then they're good to go. But if there's one test case ahead of time, because now everything's listed, if you can tell that there's one thing that will not work, you can set expectations or try something different instead. Or get the product management team involved, depending on the size of the deal. So having that list agreed upon by all parties involved is very important. And that's something that I did not do for a long time. But now I don't do a demo or a POC without that agreed upon list. Now, mistake number 7 is allowing post-sales engineers to dictate a sale. In my former company, there were pre-sales engineers and post-sales engineers. Post-sales engineers are more like support people who when the customer has questions, they will help them with either configuration or trying to debug something. And post-sales engineers are a valuable resource because while they're helping the customer debug an issue or configure something, the customer can open up to them and give them more leads. And like everything else in sales, 90% of the leads don't lead anywhere. 10% do. And generally speaking, in my experience, and that's different between different people, but the post-sales engineers that I've worked with, they get really excited about a lead, even if it's not qualified. An engineer could say, oh, we need $3 million worth of equipment next month. The manager, it might be true, the engineer could actually need that much, but the manager does not have $3 million. It has $0 to actually do anything. So the post-sales engineer might get excited and could either pass on the information to the sales team or could decide to actually do everything themselves. The good post-sales person would pass it on to the sales team. The bad post-sales engineer would try to actually do everything themselves. And that could be because they fancy themselves as pre-sales engineers, or that's the next step that they want to take in their career, but that's not really the best way to go about it. And if the sales engineer works closely with the post-sales engineer, the sales engineer would know about it. And it's not about like the post-sales engineer stepping on the SE's toes. I personally really liked it when my post-sales engineer helped me out with some stuff, especially since my post-sales engineer was a technical genius and he knew everything about everything. So I was really happy when he helped. But in my situation, he was very busy and he was working long hours. And the fact that he was working on demos and POCs that both myself and my salesperson knew will lead nowhere, I just felt he could use his time better. And also, sometimes because the post-sales engineer is not experienced pre-sales engineer, and I'm saying that, keep in mind that even pre-sales engineers some of them are not great at doing demos or POCs, and some of them are still learning. So, and it's part of their job. A post-sales engineer is not part of their job, and they're not learning. It's not something that they're being exposed to. So they're not going to be great at it. So when they try to do it, they're wasting their time, or they're wasting an opportunity. Because if we can go about it the right way, we can actually lead to a sale. So when you're working with a post-sales engineer, and this is something that you do through like trust. So when I was working with my post-sales engineer, I was able to get him to trust me when I told him this opportunity that you're working on will not lead anywhere, or this opportunity, we have to go through the strategy. And it wasn't like I was dictating stuff to him. It was more of a discussion between me and him, and we both agreed to a path. So he wasn't dictating the sale, neither was I. We were agreeing on a common path that we can both work together for a common goal. And although my boss always said that I could pull rank on my post-sales engineer, my post-sales engineer had been with the company for 12 years when I joined, and he knew his stuff technically. So I wasn't comfortable enough to actually pull rank, and pulling rank with that person might have really backfired, and he could have went from someone who's happy to work with me to someone who hated work with me, hated working with me, and not doing anything to help me. So know who you're working with, I guess. Pro tip number X. Now, mistake number 8 is allowing myself to be used as a free resource by the account manager. I am not a free resource. I'm actually an expensive resource. SEs are expensive resources for the company, and their job is to sell, not to be a free resource. sometimes as part of a deal, sure, but if it's a customer who we know is not going to buy, or could buy a little bit of money, or has a little bit of money to spend with us, just, oh, okay, so you can't pay for professional services. Well, my SE will spend a week or two with you in the lab working with you. That's a week or two of not selling stuff. So work with your account manager. Make sure he understands you're not a free resource. If they want you on site, they're going to have to pay for your services, because in the end, you are also commission based. If you're not selling, that means, well, you're not making commission. We have 2 more mistakes left, so let's recap the mistakes that I already mentioned. 1 is the spray and pray method. Don't do that. 2, giving training versus performing a demonstration. 3, accepting mediocre discovery. 4, not practicing. 5, allowing customers to walk all over me, specifically. 6, spending time on a POC without any agreed upon results or test cases. 7, allowing post-sales engineers to dictate a sale. 8, allowing being used as a free resource by the AM. 9, working on a sale without a strategy. And this ties back to like number 6, where you just show up and start working with a customer, doing a proof of concept without any agreed upon results. If you work on a sale without a strategy, it'll be very hard for you to actually close the deal. It's not your job, I know, it's the account manager's job. But as SEs, we do the technical close. We get as close as possible to a actual close of the deal, because that helps the account manager tremendously. And if we don't have a strategy of how we're going to get there, it'll be very hard to actually get there. And this happened to me quite a bit in the beginning part of my career, where we didn't have a strategy for discovery. So we just show up and do a spray and pray. And then the customer says, oh, I'm interested in this. Can I try it out? And we're like, yeah, sure. Here you go. Let's do a POC without any agreed upon outcomes or test cases. So we give them the card or the module or whatever the product is. And then we show up and, hey, have you tried it out yet? Nope. And then we come back in a couple of days. Have you tried it out yet? Nope, I'm busy. So we didn't have a strategy to actually get them to set time aside to work to test out the product. We didn't have a strategy to actually get them to see the value of the product so that they can actually test it. And then once we took the equipment back, we didn't have a strategy on how to close the deal. So working on a sale without a strategy is like going to a football game without a game plan. If you're playing, not if you're watching. And finally, number 10, not taking leadership actions on my sales team. So we have this perception as sales engineers that the account manager is the leader of the team. And in some cases, this could be true. In some cases, not so much. I keep pointing this out. We are commission-based as well. So if we do not sell, we do not make money. And although our base is fairly, well, that's money left on the table for no good reason. So as sales engineers, we can defer a lot of the decisions to the account manager. And I want to point out that leadership means making decisions, or at least helping someone, leading someone to a point where they can make a decision, removing any obstacles out of the way. And this could be with the account manager as well. So I believed for a long time, and I got really pissed off about it, that my account manager is not working hard enough, or not, he was working very hard. He was not working fast enough. So a customer asks for a quote for something, and I send the account manager all the information that is needed. And 2-3 weeks later, the customer still hasn't heard anything from the account manager. It could be that the account manager is overwhelmed. There could be a million reasons. So it was my job to make it as easy as possible, take the lead, make it as easy as possible for my account manager to send the quote. or at least to remind him, because this is an important deal. Possibly, I want to make sure that he sends it. And also, if my account manager is not setting up meetings, I can take the lead and set up meetings. It doesn't have to be cold calling customers, but it could be finding new leads from within my circle of connections. So one customer can refer me to another customer commonly, and SE can send that information to the account manager and say, call it a day. Or you can go out there and set up the meeting, invite the account manager. If he shows up, he shows up. He doesn't, you capture all the information, create the proposal. I've done that. And some account managers don't like it, but then it's on them to keep up with you versus you slowing down for them. So it's not who has the highest rank that can lead. If you listen to Jocko podcast, for which I'm not affiliated with them, I just really love the podcast. But if you listen to that podcast, you can lead up the chain and down the chain. So in my team, there was a post-sales engineer and there was the account manager. Down the chain means I will lead the post-sales engineer. Up the chain is I will lead the account manager. And my job with the post-sales engineer was to guide him on what I wanted him to work with. Like, he did his own thing when it comes to support, but also guided him on who I wanted him to support before another person or another account, because I have a good account and a bad account. So I want him to focus more on the good account. So I led that. And leading up the chain is I have to do anything in my power to make it easy for my account manager to do their job properly. Which, if that meant I do the discovery on my own, I work on the proposal on my own and send it to him and explain to him in details of what is entailed in that proposal, I will do that for him. Alright, you know what? That's 10 mistakes, but I'm going to provide a bonus one because, as I mentioned, I had a lot of mistakes. But this is a bonus one, which is not using my calendar properly to schedule learning time and follow-up time. And as SEs, sometimes we don't have time to learn, but except we're expected to be technical. And because I have children at home and I'm working on a podcast, almost everybody has side gigs that they enjoy doing over work. They can either choose to go skiing or actually doing something for work on the weekend. I prefer, believe it or not, to do everything during work hours. I frankly do not have time after work hours, and I am sure many people are in the same boat. So when it comes to learning, it is important for a sales engineer to be technical, believe it or not. So I like to schedule time every week to learn. That's not something that I did early on. I just did everything that the account manager did that wanted me to do, which meant visit customers on a daily basis, not learn anything new, and then try to catch up later. And that did not work out for me. So now I schedule time on my calendar to learn. I also schedule time on my calendar to follow up with certain action items. For example, a customer asked me a question, I don't know the answer. I scheduled time to look into the answer. I couldn't find the answer. I emailed the product managers or the chat emailing list to ask that question, and then I put in my calendar another time to follow up on that same action, make sure I received that answer, and then send it to a customer. So I'm using my calendar better. That's not something I did way back when. All right, quickly, I'm going to repeat everything that I just said. Actually, I'm not going to repeat everything that I just said. I'm just going to repeat the mistakes for the upteenth time, but why not? You can, if that bothers you, can just skip ahead for like 10 seconds, but here it is. Spray and pray method was mistake number 1. Mistake number 2, giving training versus performing demonstration. 3, accepting mediocre discovery. 4, not practicing for discovery meetings or demos. 5, allowing customers to walk all over me. 6, spending time with customers on POCs without any agreed upon outcome or test case. Wow, that was a long mistake. Okay. 7, allow post-sales engineers to dictate a sale. 8, allow being used as a free resource by account managers. 9, working on a sale without a strategy. 10, not taking leadership actions on my sales team. Bonus, not using my calendar properly. And these, as I mentioned earlier, I've done as a new SE. Some I've done as an experienced SE. I am sure I am making mistakes today. And in a couple of months, I'll look back and wonder what I was thinking. But I'll learn from it and get better as an SE, hopefully. I have not met the perfect SE yet. There is not one SE that is infallible. We all have mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes. Doesn't mean we're not good at our jobs. So don't take this list. If you're doing every single one of these mistakes, doesn't mean you're bad at your job. You can be great at spray and pray and use it to collect information. It just didn't work for me. I don't think it'll work for you, but it's just an example. So this doesn't mean that we're bad SEs. It just means that we have things to work on. So thank you guys for listening. I hope this wasn't too long or too boring. I'm enjoying putting out the content. If you like this and want more, sign up to the mailing list. I hate spam as much as the next one. I hate signing up to mailing lists. So I don't want to spam you. I just use it as another way of communicating with everybody who's part of this community. I use it once, I send a monthly digest. I used to do it weekly, but then I felt that was too much information. Well, guess what? I did a podcast and I wrote a blog. So no news there. But I'm going to be doing it once a month. That way I'll have all the podcasts and blog posts for that month in one place. And I'll also send out information for the book club for whoever registered for the book club about the book reviews and whatever books we're reading. So show notes for this episode is at wetheses.com/show45. And that's it. Thank you guys for listening. With that, this is Ramsey signing off.